Hi, this is Andy Ritchie. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the anesthesia care area and how the syringe pump is utilized there in that care area. I'll give you an example of a drug that you can use also when you're doing your demo. A couple things to remember about the anesthesia care area is that, of course, it can be used on any patient of any size. So, itty bitty neonate all the way up to an aging adult. So because of that, they need flexibility to be able to enter, specific uh, parameters for dosing and as well as weight basing. Um, some of the things that your anesthesiologist are concerned about and when they're choosing a syringe pump is accuracy. That's one of the reasons that they use a syringe pump for most of their continuous infusions in the anesthesia department. They want very accurate infusions at very low rates. And, they want to be sure that they can concentrate their medications so that they're not infusing a ton of fluid to the patient. They want to be able to bolus and load. So as our pump can do both of those features. And rapid bolus is also available. Let's see, they want it easy to program and intuitive. A lot of anesthesiologists will say, well, let me see your pump. They really don't want you to do a demo for them. They want to see if they can program by themselves. So to that point, it might behoove you to have a library that might have some things already pre-programmed, like maybe you already have a dose pre-programmed in the drug that you're demonstrating, or maybe you already have a weight pre-programmed, because the fewer steps that they need to go through when they're doing their own programming, the happier they are. Our competitor pump, Medfusion, has an anesthesia quick library feature that pre-programs some of these features. So what they would do is they'd say, most of our patients are going to be about 50 kilograms, so we'll always use that weight. They can adjust it then if they need to. They may say we're always going to start at 100 milligrams or 100 micrograms, rather 100 micrograms per kilo. And so therefore, we'll always have that pre-programmed. Good to have that pre-programmed in your loading dose and bolus dose as well. If it's not there, you can just remind them that when they set up their library, it's important for them to participate so that they can get those parameters pre-programmed for them to reduce the number of steps. The passcode is optional now, so you can either work with DoseIQ to make sure that a passcode is always required, or they can turn it off so it's not required in the anesthesia care area. Just as an FYI and to reiterate, I know that you probably are aware of this, but on the library that you have, the passcode will either be 2581 or 1527. It just depends on your library was built as to which library you have. Quick thing about rapid bolus. It's a wonderful feature. It boluses at the highest rate for the pump on the LVP, but on the syringe pump, it boluses at the highest rate for that loaded syringe. I have a 50 ml syringe loaded here, so I can go at 1200 mLs per hour. But a smaller syringe is not going to be able to deliver at that fast rate. It will be a lower rate. And to that note, when you're demoing, use a 50 ml syringe, because that's typically what they're going to be using as well, a 50 or 60 ml syringe. Another point on rapid bolus. If you're demonstrating with a microbore set and a 50 ml syringe, then when you go to deliver at 1200 mLs per hour, there may be, depending on the length of the set or anything you have on the added to the set, you may not experience it, but they may experience a downstream occlusion alarm because of the pressure that builds up on that little mini bore or microbore set. So I recommend that when you are demonstrating in this care area, you use what we call a high flow set. The number is for the US is 2N3349. It is a microbore set, but because the inner diameter is a little wider, it should be able to handle a higher flow. The priming volume is a little higher. It's 2 mLs, but it's better to use a set with a little higher priming volume. Still very low, 2 mLs, but it's a little higher than our microbore and mini bore set, just so that they don't get those nuisance alarms in situations where they have to stop and reprogram. That will just drive them crazy, and it's something that we want to always avoid. So go ahead and get yourself some high flow sets. Okay, so I've already loaded a 50 ml syringe, and I've already gone to anesthesia. So let's go ahead and say okay for anesthesia. I happen to have a passcode, so I have to enter it. Again, that's optional. The select syringe type screen has a change to it from the pumps that you currently have. The new software will have all syringes as an option, which in situations where the syringe list has been narrowed down to only one syringe, the additional syringes would be listed under all syringes. So in a case where the hospital has switched out syringes, but they did not update their library, the syringe that is being used can still be found in all syringes. Keep in mind that BD and monoject are still the only syringes that are configured for these pumps, but down the line there may be more syringes. As far as monoject, we no longer have the flange selection, so that's not an issue, or does it cause problems with identifying the correct syringe. So I have a BD syringe. I'll scroll down. I need to confirm that what I've loaded matches what my pump thinks is loaded. I would just say yes, but I want to point out that we do have the new branding that says incorrect brand or size may lead to harm. That's just a reminder that they really need to make sure they're using the right syringe. If they don't see the syringe they loaded, they could go back to all syringes and select the correct syringe. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. Okay, priming with the pump. This is a place where you might get pushback in anesthesia. They may say, oh, I'm fine. I'm not worried about it. I'm not right at the bedside. I don't need to prime with the pump, and that's just an unnecessary step because I always manually prime. And that's true. They typically manually prime. But as always, it's very important with critical drips that we ask them to prime using the pump to reduce the delay in infusion. Because as you know, at very, very low rates, sometimes there's a delay and the startup times can be longer when the pump hasn't been used to prime. We give them the option to say no if they choose, but we always will have this prompt available. So it's not something that disappears when you're in anesthesia, it will still be there. So I'm going to say yes, I will with the pump. I need to confirm my patient is not connected. And then I just press and hold that prime button. If they've already primed manually, it just takes a couple of seconds to just prime to see a drop of fluid come out the end of the syringe. Keep in mind that oftentimes these pumps are set up by an anesthesia tech in advance. So this is the person you need to sell on priming with the pump. Okay. And then the drug that I would recommend that you demonstrate in the anesthesia department is propofol. Again, you can spell the whole word out or just the two, but by just putting a P, it narrows it down quite a bit. Okay. My concentration that I would recommend is a 10 milligrams per ml. And then you would confirm it. Now, this particular drug in my drug library has not been set up for a loading dose, but if it were, the prompt to set up your loading dose would appear just like LVP. So I recommend you refer to your LVP for that practice. Okay, so as a recommendation, and I'll repeat the dosing at the end of this demonstration, but I would recommend that you put in a weight of approximately let's do 70 kilograms. And the dose I recommend that you enter is 50 kilograms. Okay, you'll see that that rate is very, very high. And you know, when you put in and press OK, you'll see your time is only, you know, around 2 hours, a little over 2 hours. For some cases, that's plenty. For other cases, they may have to switch out the syringe. So they're familiar with that. They would just swap out that syringe when the syringe is empty. They also may um, use a different dosing. Um, this was the lowest I could go in this particular drug library, so I went ahead and chose the 50. So I would stick with 50 if I were you. If you wanted a lower rate, you could of course change your weight. If it's a pediatric anesthesiologist, just use a lower weight, 10 kilos for instance. But go ahead and keep your dose of 50 mics per kilo per minute. And go ahead and start your infusion. Okay. Bolus would be programmed and delivered exactly the same way with as on the LVP. So I'm not going to go over that. You can refer to your LVP for bolus examples and playing with it. So that's pretty much the anesthesia care area. As I stated, the important thing to note is the pump is primarily used for propofol. So that is the drug I would demonstrate. It's usually 10 milligrams per ml. I would demonstrate propofol, 10 milligrams per ml. Select 70 kilos as your patient size. If you're demonstrating a loading dose, I would recommend that you load at 100 micrograms. And then for your primary dose, I would set up 50 micrograms per kilogram per minute. If you're going to deliver a bolus, the rapid bolus is what primarily they would be interested in. So again, let's make it 50 micrograms and be sure that you have that high flow set on just to make sure there's no issues with downstream occlusion alarms. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any further questions. Thank you.